Okay, let's begin. Hello, I'm Vinay Mistry, part of the developer relations team here at Symphony. In this webinar, I'm joined by two special guests, Abhishek Sinha, Global Engineering, Head of Post-Trade Client Applications, and Head of Symphony Practice at Deutsche Bank, and also Rob Moffat, Senior Technical Architect at FINOS. Hey guys.
Hi, Vinay.
Hi
Hi,
Vinay,
Rob.
hi everybody. Hello, hi Abby.
So, welcome everyone to another edition of the Build a Bot series. These are informative sessions on developing bots on Symphony. Our previous topics have included insights into Symphony's bot and workflow developer kits, security considerations, and production resilience. So, before we cover today's content, we wanted to make sure everyone here is well aware of the Symphony Developer Center, which we launched last year. This is a one-stop shop for all developer resources, from getting started to certifications, and also includes recordings to previous sessions of the Build a Bot series. So do check it out if you've missed any sessions. So a few notes about today. Our goal is for this conversation to be about 30 minutes. We'll first cover an introduction to Springbot and showcase its benefits. Then we'll run through the architecture and the availability of the project via open source. We'll then run through a demo on how you can build chatbots using Springbot, and finally, we'll then open the floor for questions. So please take advantage of the Q&A box, which you'll see at the bottom left hand corner of your screen. You can also submit questions as we go along in today's session, and we'll get to them at the end of the session. So let's get started. Abhishek and Rob, can you tell us more about Springbot?
Sure, Vinay. So I'm going to cover about, what is Springbot over here. And when the Spring has came into the world, right, when I am speaking, you may relate it with the Spring Boot, which is one of the most popular framework as of now. And on a similar line, Springbot provides the simple annotation way to create chatbots. So ultimately, by using the Java annotation power, you can create bots on top of using this particular framework. Currently, our framework supports Symfony and Microsoft Teams. And in a nutshell, like if any of the developer who want to build, any kind of chatbot, and that chatbot, the single chatbot can work across Symfony and Teams, so they can go and directly use our Springbot framework over there. Also, it take care of binding the message and, passing it across the platform in the way it is required to. And it is much more similar to the way the Spring Web MVC is going to take care of all the, hidden implementation from the Java end. In a nutshell, it also support, from the language perspective, it supports Java and Kotlin as of now. And it provides you a kind of abstraction level in order to build bot using the business logic and all over there. Okay, so in terms of benefits, right? So build bot that, run on multiple platform. When I talk about multiple platform, as of now, because our framework going to support the Symfony and Microsoft Teams, we are going to talk about it. Depending on demand and further platform may be supported in future. So this is, one of the greatest benefit which you are going to get out of this Springbot framework. Another part like Spring bot allow you to concentrate on the business logic for which you are writing a bot. You do not have to worry about the platform complexity and the API call or what is happening in the backend. You just have to use the few configuration over there and the annotation and write the business logic which you require from the business bot perspective. The third benefit which you are going to get out of it is related to the advanced templating. Templates over here are automatically generated for any of the Java object that you want to send to the chat platform that allow user to read and edit object and send them back to your bot. Additionally, templates are fully customized on per platform basis. Currently, we support FreeMarker and ThemeLeaf over there. And this template is very powerful because it will provide you a flexibility like how exactly you want to show that form to the end user in terms of what type of UX you want to use and the CSS and all those. But another part which makes this bot, the Spring bot, much more powerful is about the annotation, and which makes your bot creation super easy and easy to use over there. Another benefit which you are going to get out of it is related to the mature ecosystem. When I talk about mature ecosystem, it's like you are building a bot in Java. You avoid all usual issue with no code and low code environment. And in terms of Java, it's like one of the much more mature language over a period of time. And it has a lot of, in case if you get stuck somewhere, you have a lot of Q&A or the forum where you can go and ask for it. Also, the end benefit out of it is like, you are not getting locked in with any of the platform specific thing where, you are writing you are creating your bot with regard to some of the platform specific code, and ultimately you are landing up and paying the license fee of using that platform. Here you are using all open source language, open source framework in order to create your bot. So these are the biggest benefit of using a Spring bot.
Hi, yes. So I'll have a talk about the architecture of Spring Bot. So I'm going to pick up on all the points that Abby was making before. So the idea of Spring Bot that we originally started with was that we wanted to make it nice and easy for Java developers at Deutsche Bank initially to start building bots and to not have to worry too much about how to deal with MessageML or the Symphony APIs. We just wanted to let them get on with writing business objects and sending them back and forward to the Symphony platform. And so these are the kind of abstractions we came up with to allow them to do that. And as this diagram shows, at the top we've got these abstractions that we provide in Spring Bot, and then below that we've got a layer which includes the Symphony chat workflow Spring Boot starter and the Teams chat workflow Spring Boot starter, and they really translate all of these sort of abstractions into the underlying libraries. And we are building our Spring Bot library on top of the Symphony BDK and the Microsoft Bot Builder framework. So really what we're doing is we're providing a set of abstractions that make it really nice and easy for people to start building bots without really knowing a lot about how Symphony works and how Teams work. But we're providing those abstractions and letting them play with them. And as Abby said, we're kind of taking our cue from Spring, and especially Spring Web, in terms of providing annotations to make this easy. So let's just go through some of those abstractions then. So we're providing like an API for querying the history out of a room. So you can ask for the history of a certain kind of message or what people have talked about in a room. And when you ask for that history, it will translate that down onto the original chat platform. So that history API will work in either Teams or Symphony. And we're doing the same thing with conversations. So you can look up users, look up chats, create new rooms, and that will work in the same in both Symphony and Teams. And as Abby's mentioned before, one of the key benefits is templating. So you can take a POJO, like a plain old Java object, you annotate it with an @work annotation, and that indicates to Spring Bot that it's going to be used both in a message, but also in a business workflow. And so when you send it to Teams or Symphony, we will use our own templating to build you a template of your POJO so we can render it on the screen. And it'll either render as like some free marker if it's on Symphony, and it can render it as a form or just to display. And if it's going to Teams, it will use either Teams HTML format or it will use adaptive card. And so it will generate these templates for you, or you can override them. So we have this abstraction on top of the templating facilities provided in both these frameworks so that you can just use POJOs. We also provide an abstraction around content. So paragraphs, tables, links, mentions, all those kind of things. We turn those into Java objects. So we can read them out of a message on Symphony, allow the user to play around with them in their business workflow, and then send another message back to Symphony in the same way, or to Teams. And we have a sort of a pluggable framework as well. So you can plug in extra resolvers. So you can resolve different kinds of parameters, different kinds of objects. And so this whole thing is extensible as well. So we're going to see some of those abstractions work in the demo later on, but this kind of covers the broad way in which this works.
So from the open source perspective, if I talk about Deutsche Bank, we are the gold member of the FINOS. The basic idea over here, if you will ask me, like, why as a bank you are contributing to open source? So our philosophy is very simple over there. Whatever the project which we, given to FINOS, we can better share the benefit across industry. Okay, and drive common approach to the regulatory demands, which is essential part of the open source innovation, because this is the forum which we are running inside the bank, and we want like how our industry peer is coping up with that, and we can have some kind of common or collaborative solution which we can come out with. Till now, from Deutsche Bank perspective, we have contributed around 4 projects in the open source, and that too in the FINOS side. Below you can see the link of the Springbot and the Springbot documentation which is out there.
That's right. And so to take up Abby's point, I think when the idea is that by contributing projects into the open source, what you're doing is you're allowing not just other firms to benefit from those projects, but you're also benefiting yourself because of the feedback of bugs being fixed and contributions from other industry players. So I work for FINOS, and that is what we're trying to do across the whole finance industry. So FINOS are quite well known within the finance industry. We're part of the Linux Foundation, devoted to establishing strong open source practices within finance, and we have lots and lots of members across the banks, across industry service providers, across fintech companies, and the idea of FINOS really is to get all those guys into the room together to discuss their problems and to solve their problems together. We're doing that in things like interoperability, regulation, and things like Springbot really, and tooling like data modeling tooling. We have various different solutions to that, visualization, all sorts of stuff. So come and check out both our repositories that Abby's talked about for Springbot, but also the FINOS landscape generally. And one other thing I should probably mention as well, in the Springbot documentation, we include lots of example bots. So there are plenty of things to learn from, like poll bots, reminder bots, claim bots. So you can take a look at the bots that Deutsche Bank have written and that I've written, and take a look at those and see how we solve problems and use that as inspiration for your own bots. And one last thing I just wanted to mention is the Open Source in Finance Forum, which is in London on July the 13th this year. So this is free to all members, but yes, so the likelihood is that your organization is probably a member of FINOS already, so check out the link, maybe come along. It'd be lovely to see you there. So we're going to do a quick demo now of one of the bots that we have in our repo that you can take a look at the code of, and it's called the To-Do bot. We'll give you a step-by-step walkthrough of some of the code, including how we wrote it, and then we'll show you it working on Symphony on Microsoft Teams. And the idea of the To-Do bot is that it allows you to, within a room on Symphony, it allows you to run a little to-do list and track to-do items, add to the to-do list, assign them to people, and complete the tasks. So we're going to show you how that works now. Okay, so today we're going to show you a little bit of code running, a little bit of a Springbot demo here, and we're going to show you the to-do list bot, which is actually included in the main Springbot repo. So I've got that checked out on my project, on my Eclipse desktop here. So I'm going to just explain to you a little bit about how we've structured this. So we've got these three directories. We've got demos, libs, and tools. And if I go into libs, this chat workflow, this is like the top of that architecture diagram that I was showing in the earlier slide. So if I go into this, you can see all of those different abstractions that I was talking about. So like the content abstractions here and the annotations here and the idea of actions and so on. And so basically, these are all the different abstractions we're providing with Springbot. And then if I go down to here, into Symphony BDK, this is our Symphony BDK Spring Boot starter. So when you include this Spring Boot starter in your bot, that will auto-wire all the beans you need to do Symphony connectivity, and it's using the BDK for that. So if I quickly have a look at this, basically all of the classes in this are implementing those abstractions that I've talked about. And things like this Symphony workflow config, this is where all the beans are configured to do that. So by including this Spring Boot starter in your Spring Boot project, that will give your bot the ability to use Symphony. And the same thing is true with this Teams chat workflow Spring Boot starter. So when you include this, you will get the ability, it will auto-wire all the beans that you need to use Teams using those same abstractions we've talked about earlier. So that's a kind of a little view of this libs directory. We've got the abstractions, and then we've got these specific implementations. And we've got a couple of projects to do with testing here as well. Then we've got like some tools that we've provided. So there's like a poll bot, a reminder bot, and an RSS bot. This is like a news bot. And we've provided these. These are rolled out and being used in Deutsche Bank. And we've kind of put them in this tools directory because they're kind of like working examples of Springbot in action. And you can use these. You can have a look at these and figure out how they work and get inspiration of how we've coded our bots and use that as a sort of a basis for coding your own bots. But they are a little bit complicated. So as well as those, we've provided these demo bots here, which kind of break things down into some really simple examples. And we're going to show you this to-do bot here today, which is one of these example bots. Now, the idea of the to-do bot is that it allows you to run a little to-do list in a Symphony room or a Teams room. And so I'm going to start this up now and we'll see how it works. So I'm just simply starting the to-do workflow app. So if I go into my code folder here, this is the to-do workflow app. This is the main Springbot class. So if you've used Springbot before, Spring Boot before, sorry, you'll be familiar with this, where you have a Spring Boot application annotation, and that just starts things up. And we've got this room welcome event listener here as well, which will just, when somebody joins a room containing this bot, the bot will say hello. And so you can see in my console below here, it's started up now, and it says on this second line, the following two profiles are active Symphony and Teams, which means I'm running both on Teams and on Symphony. So what we'll do is we'll first of all check out the functionality available in Symphony. So here is a room, and in my room I can do /help, which is going to say help me to this to-do bot, and then the bot's going to reply back with all the things that it can do. So I can create a new to-do list, or I can add items to my to-do list, and there's things here where I can assign an item or complete an item, and we'll show you how those work. And then I can also delete items or re-show the to-do list on the screen. So let's quickly create a new to-do list. So if I type /new, this is going to call that new command. And then I can add an item to this to-do list as well. So I'll just do that quickly. So let's press the add button. And then I'm going to describe my item, do the washing up, and I'll assign it to me. So here we go. So this is obviously a very simple demo example, but basically what's happening now is I've got a to-do list running inside this room. And I'm going to quickly show you now how that code all sort of hangs together to do that. So there's only 5 classes, right? Here they are. So the first thing we did is we typed in /new, right, which created a new to-do list. And so if I look at this to-do controller, this is kind of where all those commands are processed. So if you're familiar with Spring Web or Spring, you'll have seen the app controller annotation. And this indicates to Spring that there's going to be some auto wiring to be done to allow this to work. So our new command here is this one. So new, or you can type in nouveau if you're French as well. So basically this annotation chat request is to create the new to-do list item. And it's pretty simple stuff, right? So all it's doing is it's calling this method init, which creates a new to-do list and returns it. And let's have a quick look at that to-do list object, right? So if I go into this, basically this is a very simple bean. This is just a sort of a plain old Java object, a POJO. So it's a class called to-do list, and inside that class, it's got a list of items. It's got a couple of constructors here, including the default constructor, and then it's got a getter and setter for that list of items. And we've got two annotations on this. At work, this at work annotation is one of those annotations that's provided by Chat Workflow. And what that does is it tells Spring Bot that this object is going to be sent to and from chats, and therefore it will need to create a template for that and show it on the screen. And this requires requires user list. This allows us, this tells the Spring Bot that there's going to be a drop-down field with a user in it, and therefore it needs to populate a user list. So as we've said, basically a to-do list is really just a bunch of to-do items, and a to-do item looks like this. So again, it's got this at work annotation. There's a little bit more going on here. So it's got a status, which is open or complete. It's got a to-do list number. It's got a description, who created it, who it's assigned to, and that status field. And then just as like any other POJO, it's got getters and setters for all these things. So going back to Symphony then. So what we're seeing here on the screen is Spring Bot can take that to-do list and then render it out, render out all the fields of those to-do items as a list here on the screen. Okay, and so when I typed in new, it created me this empty list. And then when I clicked the add button, what I got was it calling a different method here. So this is the add button here. So it takes a new item and it adds that to the to-do list. So what we're going to quickly show you now is how assign works. So I've got Abby ready and waiting here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign a to-do list to him. So if I type in assign, I'm going to assign item number 1. Ooh. So if I type in 1, and then I'm going to put Abby in there. So and this is Abby, FINOS user 2. So I press that, and what's going to happen is it's going to change this and return it onto the screen. So as you can see now, doing the washing up is now assigned to Abby there. So let's have a quick look at how that works. So I'm going to find the assign command in here. Where is it? Here we are at the bottom. So again, we're using our annotation, our at chat request annotation. We've got assign, and then we've got some items and by. And items, if you look here, is a list of words, and by is an optional user. So here's an example in the descriptive text here. So I can just do assign 135 at Suresh Rupnar, and those words will be the 1, 3, and 5, and the user, this by, will be Suresh Rupnar. So in the example I just did, where I typed in assign 1 Abby, what it's going to do is it's going to put the word 1 into this set of words, and the user Abby into this optional user list. And so the last thing it does is Spring Bot is really clever at populating all kinds of extra parameters here. So by providing this user A, because this isn't bound to one of these chat request variables, it's going to fill that in with the person doing the assigning. So that will be me. And then this last one, this optional to-do list, what it does here is it's going to look in the chat history and say, oh, I'm going to find the last version of the to-do list and populate that in there as well and give you that to look at. So this is really helpful in terms of building up your workflow, because you don't really have to think too hard about where to get all these variables from. That's all kind of supplied for you. So what happens here is that basically we're making sure we've got a to-do list here. So we're using the functionality of this optional to say if there isn't a to-do list, we're going to create one. And then what we're doing here is we're finding the user in by, or if there isn't a user in by, we're using me in this case. So if I just typed in assign 1, it would assign it to me. And then we're calling this change status thing. So what we're doing is, what this is going to do is it's going to look for all the to-do list. It's going to find all of these different numbers in the to-do list, and it's going to do that assign command. So it's going to update the user to be that new person, and it's going to set them all to status open. So I'll quickly show you that. So there's basically just a little iterator here that runs through all the words which have been converted into their integer numbers, and it just assigns them all. All right, so I think that explains how assign works, and we've kind of seen it happening. So the next thing I want to do is just show you how easy it is to add functionality to a bot in this way, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to write a little bit of extra functionality here so that I can send this to-do list to Microsoft Teams. All right, so let's go back into Eclipse for a second. So if I want to send something to Microsoft Teams, what I'm going to need is a form that allows me to pick the room in Microsoft Teams that I'm going to send it to. So let's create a new form. Right, so let's go new class, and I'm going to type in here, let's call the form send to room. Okay, so I'm just going to create that. What I'm going to do at the same time, I'm going to stop this bot. We're going to restart it again in a minute. And just as before with our to-do list, I'm going to add that at work annotation, and that's going to tell Springbot that we're going to be using this as a form on Symphony and Teams. And this is the room we're going to find out from the user. So this is using our abstraction chat we've talked about before. Let's just add some getters and setters. Okay, and then the last thing we need is we need to tell Springbot that it's going to have to populate a drop down for this. And so we're going to add this annotation, requires chat list. And that's basically saying when we're sending this to Teams or Symphony, this form is going to need to have a list of the rooms that are available to the bot, and that will allow us to populate a drop down. So there's our center room. Let's add some methods to do controller now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new command, right? Which is going to be called send, right? Which is going to allow us to send it to the room. And this is going to work a bit like that new command that we looked at before. Okay, so basically when I type in send, it's going to return me a new empty form of send to room. Now, by default, this will be sent in sort of a read-only mode or a view mode. So what I'm going to do here is add chat response body, work mode equals edit, and that means that the form is going to be sent so that I can edit it and so I type in some details. Now, whenever you have a form, you're going to need a button for that form, right? So let's add that in as well. So we're going to do chat button, and the button is going to be added to the send to room form, and we're going to give it some button text. And I'll put send as the button text. So public. Now, here I'm going to, because normally the responses go back in the same room, right? But I want something slightly different to happen here. When I send the details to the room, I'm going to want it to send to the other room on Symphony. So I'm going to need the value out of the form and send it to that. So instead of using just sending back an object, I'm going to use another abstraction out of Springbot called work response. And there's a whole bunch of different response type abstractions here. Send to room. and we've got the form, send to room, the form. And we also want to send it the to-do list, right? Just like we did, we've used the to-do list before. So to-do list. To-do list. Okay, so using that sort of clever parameter filling, what's going to happen here is when we click the button send, it's going to populate the form into here, and it's going to populate the last good to-do list into this value here. So let's just return a work response. And where are we going to send it? So we've got three parameters here. We've got the thing we're going to send it to, the thing we're going to send, sorry, the place we're going to send it to, the thing we're going to send, and what mode to send it in. So like edit or view. So I'm going to send to the form dot room, and I'm going to send the to-do list, TDL, to-do list. And then I'm going to send it in view mode. Okay, good. So let's give this a try now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to restart this. And it takes a little bit of time to come up, but then we're going to go over to Symphony. All right, that should do it. Let's go over to Symphony now. So here's my to-do list, and if I type /help again, what we should see now is that we've got send in the list, and it says send to room. So let's give that a go. So send. All right, and here's my new send to room form come up. And as you can see, it's got that room field that's in my bean. So now I can choose a room, right? And so these are all the rooms that my bot is in. Okay, so it's quite a lot now. And this one here, chat with Abhishek, Pankaj, and Rob Moffat. This chat actually is a Teams chat. So let's pick that one and we'll click send. Now, for next, I'm going to have to go to Microsoft Teams. So let me get that up. All right, so here we go. This is my to-do list item here. So as you can see, do the washing up. I created it, I assigned it to Abby, and it's open. So Abby, you're in this room, aren't you?
Sorry, yeah, Rob, I'm in this room. I can complete it.
Yeah, do you want to give that a try and complete it, and we'll see what happens?
So
do you remember how to do that? You have to, that's exactly it. Yep. So with Teams, you have to specify the name of the bot first in order for the messages to get sent to Teams. So Abby's typed in Teams demo app, complete one. And this works very like the assign thing. And as you can see, it's now changed to be complete. Now, if I hop back into Symphony now, I've got a message here from the to-do bot. And the to-do bot says, updated to do the washing up to status complete. So what I can see now is we've got things going in both directions, right? We've had me sending a to-do list into a different room, Abby updating the to-do list on Teams, and then the bot replying back to me on Symphony to say that has actually happened. So so there we go. We've got the different notifications heading in both directions.